The power of obedience. The power of obedience. Deuteronomy 28 verse 1 to 2 NIV. It says, if you fully obey the Lord your God. Deuteronomy 28 verse 1 to 2. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully, intentionally, consciously follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. If you fully obey, So in other words, obedience commands progress. Obedience is a relative of progress. Disobedience is a relative of stagnancy. Obedience is a relative of prosperity. Disobedience is a relative of stagnancy. In the supernatural advancement, in kingdom advancement, obedience is a necessary character for the move of God. You can't fall short. You can't stay on the same level when you simply obey as against your heart analysis. If you fully, people love the prospects. People love the promises of God, but they are not willing to adhere to the conditions that brings the promises. There are conditions. Obedience is one. It's a character condition for supernatural advancement. If you fully obey the Lord your God, carefully follow, irrespective of what the world is presenting to you, irrespective of what your parents tell you, irrespective of what those your friends tell you, if you fully obey. In Luke 5 verse 1 to 7, let's look at something very interesting. Most of us already know it. Luke 5 verse 1 to 7. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were already washing their nets they've closed. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people. He gave an instruction and he continued what he was doing. Verse 4. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, put out. Now, not on shallow water. He says, put out into deep water, the depth of it, and let down the nets for a catch. Simon answered, Master, we have worked hard all night, and we have not caught anything. But because you say so, how many of you are willing to do what he says you should do? But because you say so, I will let down the nets. And you know the story. When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. Obedience commands breakthrough. Obedience will give you what is beyond the size of your storeroom. Their nets could not handle the harvest because they entered with a character called obedience. They could have doubted God. Who is Jesus? We are professional fishermen. We have toiled all night. What other thing can we do? And you even said, put your nets into the depths of water. I don't understand. The instructions of God don't make sense, but they make miracles. It doesn't. There are things God will tell you. It don't make sense. Even me, I'm like, what are you saying? The things he has asked me to do. And I'm like, this thing. But when I just do, I begin to see results. You don't need to know how. You don't need to know the end, but just move. Your business is not to know. All you need to do is trust in their ability. You do the responsibility. You're a professional fisherman. So what are you going to tell me? Do you know how I've positioned the nets? Do you know how I've done the hook and the line and the sinker? Is it today we started this business? But they listened because you say so. Your trust in God makes God transport his angels on your behalf. Your trust in God activates a harvest that cannot be explained. But all you need to do is trust Him. Obedience is a relative of progress. Disobedience is a relative of stagnancy.